Welcome. I am so thrilled you're here today because we are going to dive into an explainer of something truly fascinating. We're looking at the hidden, meticulous architecture behind every single successful classroom. I mean, think about it. When you see a beautifully constructed building, you absolutely know there were blueprints behind it, right? Well, education is really no different. Today, we're unpacking the exact science and structure of instructional planning.
Take just a second and picture your absolute favorite teacher. Do you remember how incredibly smoothly their classes ran? How everything just seemed to click right into place and learning felt, well, almost effortless? I kind of hate to break it to you, but that seemingly effortless magic was actually the result of intense, strategic preparation. So how exactly does a teacher prepare for the endless, unpredictable complexities of a live classroom?
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the foundation of teaching. Second, the macro view, which is year plans. Third, the bridge, or unit planning. Fourth, the micro view, with lesson plans. And finally, number 5, the value of preparation.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the foundation of teaching.
Before we get into any specific frameworks, we really have to ask the most foundational question of all. Why do educators need to rigorously plan instruction in the first place? Like, why not just walk into the room, open a book, and start talking? Well, without a plan, a chemistry experiment might just end in a messy explosion, right? But with a plan, it becomes this amazing, controlled moment of discovery. Planning is a vital toolkit. It allows the teacher to present content in a highly logical and systematic way, which honestly saves a ton of time and effort in the long run. But what's really fascinating here is that it provides a deep feeling of security. A well-prepared teacher actually has the bandwidth to let their own unique personality shine through, and it even provides a safe space for controlled classroom experiments.
Moving right along to Section 2, the macro view year plans.
If building a curriculum is like building a house, this right here is your master blueprint. This step requires a very steady, measured approach because we are looking at the entire academic calendar all at once. Year planning, which you might also hear called an annual plan or a curriculum map, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a structured, overarching outline of learning objectives, content, and activities for a whole academic year. But it's not just for the teacher. This roadmap serves as an essential guiding light for teachers, students, and parents alike. It arranges the various units and decides exactly how much time or how many class periods will be dedicated to each one.
A standard yearly plan is pretty simple, but man, is it incredibly effective. By organizing columns for the month, the theme or topic, learning objectives, and specific outcomes, educators can visually organize massively complex subjects on a macro level. For example, by grouping months together, say August to September or December to January, it gives literally everyone a crystal clear timeline of what is expected and exactly when it's going to be achieved.
All right, Section 3, the bridge, unit planning.
Okay, so we've seen the master blueprint of the house. Now let's zoom in a little bit to see how we frame specific rooms within that house. A unit plan is that perfect middle ground. Think of, say, a 3-week deep dive into the solar system. That's a unit. It's a related learning segment made up of a handful of lessons. You can think of it as a comprehensive instructional framework for one specific topic. The immense merit of unit planning is that it provides a basic course structure that enables teachers to seamlessly integrate concepts, balance different dimensions of a course, and most importantly, break away from rigid, traditional textbook teaching to create actual, engaging experiences for the students.
Educators actually build these using a highly methodical 4-step procedure. Step 1 is content analysis, figuring out the what of the unit. Step 2 is objectives, the why we are learning this. Step 3 is learning activities, the how, which is the actual execution in the room. And finally, Step 4, evaluation procedures, which is the evidence of achievement. This completely translates those broad yearly goals into organized, actionable segments.
Now for Section 4, the micro view, lesson plans.
This is where we land right on the ground, inside the classroom, to examine the daily hammering of the nails. This is where the pace and the energy of teaching really pick up. A lesson plan is the teacher's detailed daily outline. It is a literal plan of action implemented to control and guide the live teaching and learning process in the room. It is the minute-by-minute execution of literally everything we've talked about so far.
As Educator Green beautifully noted way back in 1987, a lesson plan is the teacher's mental and emotional visualization of classroom activities. I just absolutely love this. It beautifully humanizes the somewhat clinical frameworks behind education we've been looking at. It's not just a checklist, you know? It is the teacher mentally and emotionally rehearsing the performance of teaching.
When you're structuring a lesson, the introduction, or the set phase, isn't just saying hello to the class. Instead of a basic greeting, the introduction phase is where a teacher might, for example, spark a heated 5-minute debate to instantly hook the entire room. It is all about establishing key learning areas and actively choosing your teaching approaches right out of the gate.
From that compelling introduction, we flow directly into the main content block. This is the absolute core of the daily lesson where the actual names, historical dates, or complex math formulas are deployed. The teacher knows exactly what information needs to be transmitted and has a highly structured space to ensure absolutely nothing gets missed in the heat of a live, buzzing classroom.
And you know, because true, deep learning doesn't always fit neatly into a tiny little box, great plans always account for continuation space. Thoroughness and effectiveness are paramount here. A really good plan accommodates the full depth of the material, which allows the lesson to breathe and expand naturally if the students are deeply engaged in the topic.
And finally, we have the closure. A phenomenal lesson doesn't just abruptly end when the bell rings. It wraps up neatly. It synthesizes what was learned, ensuring that the mental and emotional visualization we talked about earlier actually lands with the students before they pack up and leave the room.
So, why put all this work into a daily framework? Because the values are just immense. It guarantees the achievement of definite goals and actively prevents the wastage of precious class time. It guarantees thoroughness and makes accurate evaluation possible. But honestly, perhaps most importantly, it builds ultimate self-confidence for the teacher. When you have a solid plan, you have the total confidence to handle absolutely anything the classroom throws at you.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the value of preparation. We have journeyed from the vast span of an entire year right down to a single minute in class. Let's synthesize how these levels all work together in perfect harmony. When you contrast the massive, zoomed-out scale of the year plan with the granular, zoomed-in detail of the lesson plan, you really start to see the impressive spectrum of an educator's mind. The macro roadmap spans months and guarantees we hit our destination by June, while the micro action plan guides the minute-by-minute reality of a Tuesday morning. One simply cannot succeed without the other. They're intrinsically linked.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. We've seen exactly how teachers use this architecture, from the year, down to the unit, down to the daily lesson, to achieve incredible results. So how can you apply this exact structured, macro to micro planning architecture to your own professional goals or personal projects? If it works for shaping the minds of the future, just imagine what it could do for your own daily productivity. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and as always, keep learning.